The third epiphany was momentum. And this is something I learned about 3 years into game. I found randomly one night, I approached like 20 women in the course of an hour or two. And I was like, wow, I feel really charismatic. I feel very confident. I just feel I'm able to do things I normally couldn't do. I would like make out with a girl within minutes of meeting her. My normal negative thoughts were just gone. And I thought, this is kind of crazy. This, like, I just took a lot of action and my mentality completely shifted. My emotions changed. Normally my emotions would be telling me, oh, she probably doesn't like you, you're gonna get rejected, you're not good enough, this is gonna be awkward. It's putting on the brakes. But this night, when I did a ton of approaches and started putting myself out there more and more, that went away. It completely went away. That was no longer holding me back. And so from that, I started implementing that as part of my strategy. Just approaching a lot more was the basic difference, right? Instead of looking for the perfect girl, instead of spending 10 minutes like with my binoculars, basically like looking for, oh, where's the perfect girl to approach? I would just talk to everyone. Talk to guys, talk to girls, make friends, talk to everyone, even people I'm not attracted to. A girl is just like, let's say, not my type. Talk to her for a couple minutes, move on, talk to everyone, get into a social state. And when I did that, my nights would go so much smoother. And by the end of the night, I would do things that I never thought were possible before. I would do things that it was like watching myself outside my own body. It's like, that's not me. I can't do that. Like, I'm too much of a bitch to do that. How did I do that? How did I just pull that super hot girl 20 minutes after meeting her? Or how did that get so sexual so fast? It's like, I'm not even controlling myself anymore. It's something else is acting through you. It's kind of what it feels like when you really get in the zone. And that was something that I learned. There were like methods for that people like Owen Cook, for example, had taught. And so I refined it by going through that, learning about flow states in psychology, because that's what state is, getting into a flow state. That's the psychological term. So I learned a lot more about that and refined how to get into momentum. But once I started doing that every night, I would do a ton of approaches, meet a lot of people. I would end up with like 5 or 10 phone numbers. I would be going home with a girl, like a really attractive girl, I was into way more than before, once I started using momentum as like one of the foundational principles for how I went about approaching women. That made a gigantic difference. I'm coming out with a course later this month called God Mode, which is about using that method, about using state. I have, I've made some shorter videos about that on my channel that you can find, but that's where I'm gonna go in depth, because I think that is the big difference between having this half-assed, like I'm dipping my feet in the water approach to game, and really diving in and getting the most results possible. Is building momentum, is just doing more approaches in a shorter amount of time, minimizing the time between your interactions, giving yourself positive feedback, approaching girls even if you're not attracted to them, just to make their night better, just to offer value, getting into the offering value mentality. And then by the end of the night, if you do that, you walk away with more results in one night than the average guy does in several months. So that makes a profound difference. All right, the fourth epiphany that I had was sexual energy. And this is kind of related to showing intent, making your intentions clear, but it takes it to a more primal level. So there was a few nights I went out in Vegas that for whatever reason, I was going to the Vegas clubs on a trip. For whatever reason, I was just in a very sexual mood. I was just in that kind of state. And I noticed that some of the girls they would just like instantly reject me. But the girls that didn't, it was on. Like, it was on immediately. It was just on, and I would end up bringing girls home very, very quickly, very effortlessly, and it was just the energy was there, right? There was just this feeling of like being turned on, and she felt it, and it was this buildup of sexual tension. And it was just, I was looking at the girl I'm talking to, and just being turned on. Like, I'm looking at her with a feeling of desire. Not just thinking, oh, she's hot, I should pull her. No, I feel it, right? Feeling the desire like in your bones, feeling that emotionally. And, funny word choice, in your bones. But that made a huge difference in the amount of interactions I had that would go nowhere, versus most of the interactions are either like, and go away, not interested, right? Like, get some blowouts, but when a girl was, which is always going to happen, sorry, like there's always going to be some blowouts, but the percentage of girls that it was just on with, like tripled, quadrupled. It was just so much higher, and it was so much easier to say bring girls home, to make out with a girl I just met, to get very crazy kinds of sexual experiences. And it was just being aware that if you feel sexual energy, that transmits, right? That channels from you to the other person. And if they're even slightly open to it, it creates that feeling in them, right? If they're married and there's just no matter what, like I'm not gonna open myself up to that, you're still gonna get rejected. But any girl who's a little bit open to it, that creates this very powerful sexual energy. And it's something that, it's a tool that you definitely wanna use, just allowing yourself to feel turned on. Like not approaching from an intellectual, like I'm playing chess. It's not like I'm playing a video game, I'm playing chess. No, it's actually coming from a place of primal, genuine emotional desire. It's like, wow, she's sexy, I want her. Feeling that, allowing yourself to be turned on. Once you do that, the more you do that, the results you get will have a dramatic shift. So that was the fourth epiphany. And the fifth one is the one that's the most offensive, but it's so important. If this bothers you, what can I do? I prefer to tell the truth, even if it's something you don't want to hear, even if it alienates a lot of people, because I'm not trying to appease to the masses of people who don't actually want to get results, the people who just want to mentally masturbate basically to self-help. I want to resonate with the people who actually want to win, people who actually want to get measurable results and improve their dating life in a real way. So people who are not like that, they're probably not going to like this last one. And it is the vast majority of people who learn about pickup, who learn about seduction, game, whatever you want to call it, they're not doing game. They're really not. Even if they're going out. The percentage, first of all, the percentage that goes out regularly is like 5% of the people who watch videos, like watch pickup kind of videos. Only 5%, if not less. Or people are active on Facebook groups, forums, etc. Like I had a Facebook group in my hometown that had 90 members, and there were only 3 of us that went out every weekend, and 2 of them were my roommates. And there were a few other guys who would go out semi-consistently, but it was only 3 of us who would go out like 3 nights a week or more, who like really took it seriously. The rest, they were half-assing it. Like they weren't really trying. And the vast majority of guys who are aware of pickup have approached less than 50 women in their entire lives. Like think about that. Less than 50 in their entire lives. Being completely honest, I'll often do that in a single night. Right? That'll be an average, that's a night. If I'm out for a long night for like 4 hours, that's what I'll do in a night, and that's what they're doing in their entire lives. It's just they're not taking it seriously. They're dabbling. Most guys who do go out, even the ones who do go out a lot, they'll do like 5 approaches over the course of 3 hours and spend the other 2 hours just like looking around the venue in a daze, like a derp state. I remember on a trip to Vegas that I went to with some friends, they were standing by the pillar. And so I would go out and approach and bring girls back to them. I'd go out and approach. Every time I went back to them, they're just standing at the pillar. And I asked, like, how many approaches do you do? Like 2. You came to Vegas to meet girls. You invested your time. You invested your money. You're at one of the best clubs on the planet. And you approached 2 women in the entire night. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? If you get rejected and you have to do more approaches, whatever. But, like, play to win, right? Most people are not playing to win. The average guy who goes out and actually approaches does less than 5 approaches a night. And hey, if you're like bringing home the second girl you approach, and that's why you're only approaching 5, great. But if you're just spending 2.5 hours doing nothing and just like looking around the venue, looking for the perfect girl to approach, that's kind of like if you were going to the gym and you spend 50 minutes looking at the weights, like, ooh, that weight looks, maybe I should do that one. Maybe I should lift that one. Maybe I should lift that one. And then only 10 minutes actually lifting weights. That's what it's the equivalent of. So most people are just not doing game. I would see in the course of a night, I would get like 10 numbers, 10 different girls' numbers, and I would bring a girl home at the end of the night. I'd talk to my wingmen, my friends who I went out with, ask what they did. And they're like, oh yeah, I did like 3 or 4 approaches, then I went home. It's like, if you want to get results, play to win. Be willing to take a lot of action. Don't half-ass this. And I'm not saying you have to give up every other area of your life. There was a point when I was working 40 hours a week. I was taking the maximum amount of credits you're allowed to in college. And I was also going to the gym 4 times a week. And I still went out to the clubs 4 times a week, a couple hours to 3 hours each time. The time is there if you're willing to make it. It doesn't have to be more than, say, 10 hours or so a week. That's enough to get really good results. But how many guys are doing that 10 hours? And how many are doing, like, they're going to the bar, and 9.5 of those 10 hours they're out, they don't do a single approach, right? It's just, you have to think, what will get me the results I want? What amount of action do I have to take? And how much am I willing to take? And it does take a real amount of effort to get results. It doesn't just come to you by dabbling. And the vast majority of guys are dabbling, and that's why they fail. It's the same with like fitness, where the vast majority of guys who are on a diet, they don't count their calories, they don't track their workouts, they don't make a schedule, and of course they fail. But every guy I've ever met who got a fitness transformation, they were doing those things. And the same thing with pickup. What are those things? Making sure you're actually like doing a lot of approaches when you go out, making sure that you're going for the close, that you're asking girls for their numbers, that you're inviting them back to your place, that you're showing your intentions, that you're, playing to win as opposed to playing not to lose. So that's the 5th epiphany. Really think about that one. If that's you, be a little pissed off at yourself. Be a little frustrated. That's one of the differences I had between other people. The reason I was able to make a business that's now making 6 figures as well is I would get pissed off at myself. Not at my circumstances, but at the actions I was choosing. I would say, what the hell am I doing? Like, I would get pissed off that I was not living up to my potential and use that as fuel. It's okay to be pissed off. This part, if it's describing you, it's okay to be pissed off. You should be pissed off, and you should determine that you're gonna change course, that you're gonna get off of the track you're on, and then actually take it seriously and play to win. Start playing to win. And that's my recommendation to you. So those are the 5 biggest epiphanies I got from approaching about 10,000 women. Maybe it's 12,000, maybe it's 8,000. I don't know exactly. I'm not that much of a nerd. I'm a nerd, but not that much of a nerd. But it's somewhere in that range. If you find my advice helpful, then the best way I can help you, what I highly recommend is consider taking a boot camp with me, a 3-day in-person boot camp where I take you by the hand and actually show you what really doing game, right? What actually playing to win, what it looks like by pushing you into approaches, giving you feedback, and taking you through the process of what really gets you results. If you're not sure if that, like, am I legit? Do I get good results? I'll link my testimonials somewhere. I have tons of testimonials. I've helped virgins lose their virginity during a boot camp with me. So within 3 days, tons of guys, I've had guys get threesomes when they've never done that, pull for the first time in their life. The coaching definitely does help. So if you have the ability to make that investment, not a bad idea. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button, and leave a comment, because that helps the algorithm say, oh, people are engaging with this. Let's show it to other people. That's how it works. It takes like 10 seconds, and it really helps me a lot, so I would appreciate that.